My husband cheated with my teen daughter's volleyball coach and I found about it from a receipt in his jacket. I gathered all the evidence and filed for divorce. Then he started stalking our kids at school and got arrested, and his new girlfriend warned me he was getting worse. For context, my husband, Cedric, 51M, works as an operations manager at a manufacturing plant. His hours have always been long, but the past few years he started taking more evening shifts and weekend projects. I, 44F, worked as a dental hygienist until my daughter, Rachel, 17F, was born, then stayed home to raise the kids. We have 2 kids, Rachel and Harvey, 14M. Cedric and I met when I was finishing college. He was already established in his career, owned a house, seemed like he had everything figured out. Looking back, I think I was drawn to that stability. My own parents divorced when I was young, and I wanted something different for my kids. For the first decade, things were good enough. We did family vacations, went to the kids' school events together, had dinner as a family most nights. But somewhere around year 15, we stopped really talking. Our conversations became about schedules, bills, and what needed fixing around the house. I told myself this was normal for couples with kids and demanding jobs. Rachel started playing club volleyball when she was 13. She's always been athletic, competitive, the kind of kid who gives everything 110%. When she made the premier team at 15, we were all excited. The coach, Brenda, 34F, had played Division I volleyball and coached at the high school level before starting the club program. She was intense, focused, and Rachel really responded to her coaching style. Within a year, Rachel went from a decent player to one of the top hitters in the region. Brenda started coming around more often. She'd stop by to drop off practice schedules or tournament information. She came to our house for a team potluck we hosted. She and Cedric would talk about business stuff since her family owned a logistics company. I thought nothing of it. She seemed professional, dedicated to the team. Rachel looked up to her. Last November, I was putting away groceries and found a receipt in Cedric's jacket pocket. I wasn't snooping, just emptying pockets before doing laundry like I'd done 1,000 times before. The receipt was from a restaurant downtown, a place Cedric and I had never been to. 2 entrees, 2 cocktails, 1 dessert. The date was a Wednesday, 3 weeks earlier. I stood there in the laundry room staring at it. Cedric had told me he was working late that Wednesday. I remembered because Harvey had a school concert and Cedric missed it. I put the receipt on the kitchen counter and waited for Cedric to get home. When he walked in, I asked him about it. He barely glanced at it before saying it was a work dinner with a vendor. But his neck got red the way it does when he's lying. I asked which vendor. He said he couldn't remember, it was 3 weeks ago. I asked why he paid instead of using the company card. He said the card machine was down. Every answer came too quick, too defensive. He grabbed the receipt and threw it in the trash, then said he had calls to make and went into his home office. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about the restaurant, the 2 cocktails, the shared dessert. The next morning after Cedric left for work, I went through his credit card statements online. I had access because we'd always shared finances. What I found made my hands shake. Multiple charges at restaurants I didn't recognize. Hotel rooms in our own city. Charges at a boutique that sold women's clothing. Gift purchases from a jewelry store. All over the past 8 months. Thousands of dollars I hadn't noticed because I didn't usually check the statements closely and Cedric always said he was handling the finances. I called the credit card company and asked for detailed receipts. They emailed them within an hour. One hotel charge from September had a notation showing it was for a weekend rate. That weekend, Cedric had supposedly gone to a conference in Cleveland. I'd stayed home with the kids. Another restaurant receipt from October showed a purchase at 10 p.m. on a Friday. Cedric had said he was having drinks with his college roommate who was in town. I remembered that night because Rachel had asked if her dad wanted to come watch her game earlier that evening, and I'd told her he was busy catching up with an old friend. I printed everything. Then I did something I'd never done before. I went into Cedric's office and opened his laptop. He never closed it completely, just put it to sleep. I clicked on his messages. The most recent thread was with a contact saved as B. I opened it. The messages went back 7 months. They started somewhat normal, talking about Rachel's progress, upcoming tournaments, training schedules. Then they shifted. By June, the messages had changed completely. There were references to meeting up. Compliments about appearance. Inside jokes I didn't understand. By August, the content left no room for interpretation. Plans to meet at hotels. Discussions about what to do when they had time alone. Comments about their last time together. I scrolled back through months of messages. There were photos too. Pictures of Brenda that she'd sent him. Some were casual, taken at the gym or at practice. Others were different. I sat there for over an hour reading everything, watching my marriage dissolve in front of me on a screen. The messages also contained things they'd said about me. Comments about how I'd let myself go. How I was boring. How I never wanted to do anything fun anymore. Brenda had written back agreeing, making jokes. She'd sent a message in July saying something about how I probably didn't even notice Cedric was gone half the time because I was too busy watching Netflix. Cedric had responded with laughing emojis. I took screenshots of everything. I emailed them to myself. Then I closed the laptop and sat in that office for another hour. I thought about Rachel and how she talked about Brenda constantly. How she'd told me last month that Brenda was like the cool older sister she never had. I thought about Harvey, who was just starting to navigate high school and needed his dad around. I thought about the fact that Brenda had been in my house, eaten food I'd cooked, complimented my garden. That night I made dinner like normal. Cedric came home and we ate as a family. Rachel talked about an upcoming tournament in Indianapolis. Harvey complained about his English teacher. Cedric asked if anyone wanted to watch a movie. I said I had a headache and went to bed early. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what to do next. The next week was Thanksgiving. Cedric's parents came to visit from Florida. We hosted dinner for 16 people. I cooked for 2 days. I smiled and made small talk and served pie and pretended everything was fine. Cedric's mother told me I looked tired and suggested I needed more sleep. Brenda sent Rachel a text on Thanksgiving saying she was grateful for such a dedicated athlete on her team. Rachel showed me the text, beaming. After Cedric's parents left, I told him we needed to talk. I showed him the credit card statements. He went pale. He tried to say they were work expenses he hadn't properly documented. I showed him the printed screenshots from his messages with Brenda. He stood up from the table and walked out of the room. I followed him. I asked him how long it had been going on. He said it didn't matter. I asked if he loved her. He said I wouldn't understand. I asked if he thought about Rachel, about what this would do to her. He turned around then and said that Rachel was exactly why we needed to be careful about this, that we needed to think about how to handle it quietly. I told him to leave. He said it was his house. I said fine, then I'd leave. He grabbed my arm and told me to calm down, that we needed to be rational. I pulled away and went upstairs. I locked myself in the bedroom. He knocked on the door for 10 minutes, saying we needed to talk like adults. Then I heard him go downstairs. I heard the garage door open and his truck start. He didn't come back until 3 in the morning. The next day I called my sister Pam, 48F. She lives 2 hours away. I drove to her house and told her everything. She sat there with her mouth open. Then she said I needed to talk to a lawyer before doing anything else. She gave me the name of someone she knew through work, a divorce attorney who'd handled her friend's case. I called from Pam's house and made an appointment for the following Monday. I went home that evening. Cedric was watching TV. He asked where I'd been. I said I went to see Pam. He nodded and turned back to the TV. We didn't speak for the rest of the night. That Sunday, Rachel had a tournament. Cedric and I both went because we always went to Rachel's games together. We sat next to each other in the bleachers. Brenda was on the court coaching. Every time she called out to Rachel, every time she clapped or gave a thumbs up, I wanted to scream. Rachel's team won. Brenda came over to us afterward and said Rachel had played great. She smiled at both of us. Cedric said something about Rachel's blocking improving. Brenda agreed and launched into analysis of Rachel's technique. I excused myself and went to the bathroom where I stood in a stall trying not to throw up. On Monday I met with the lawyer, Catherine, 56F. I brought the printed statements and screenshots. Catherine looked through everything and took notes. She asked questions about our finances, the house, Cedric's job. She asked about the kids. Then she explained what divorce would look like in our state, how custody typically worked, what I should expect regarding assets and support. She said given the evidence, I had a strong case. She said the first step was for me to gather more documentation, make copies of everything financial, and open my own bank account. She said I should not tell Cedric I'd consulted a lawyer until we had everything organized. I did what she said. Over the next week, I copied tax returns, mortgage papers, investment account statements, insurance policies. I made a list of every asset we owned. I opened a checking account at a different bank and transferred half of our savings into it. Catherine said that was within my rights. I felt like a criminal doing it, but I did it anyway. Then I had to figure out when and how to tell the kids. Catherine recommended having a family therapist or counselor involved. I found someone who specialized in adolescence and family transitions. Her name was Dr. Morgan, 43F. I met with her alone first to explain the situation. She suggested I tell the kids together but separately from Cedric. She said kids often feel pressured to pick sides when both parents are present. She offered to be there when I told them if I wanted. I scheduled a session for the following Saturday. I told Cedric that morning I was taking the kids to talk to someone. He asked why. I said he knew why. He started to argue but I walked out. Dr. Morgan's office was in a converted house with comfortable furniture and soft lighting. Rachel and Harvey sat on a couch. I sat across from them. Dr. Morgan sat to the side. I told them their dad and I were having serious problems. Rachel asked if we were getting divorced. I said yes. Harvey asked why. I said their dad had been seeing someone else. Rachel's face went white. She asked who. I hesitated. Dr. Morgan had advised me to be honest but age appropriate. I told them it was someone we all knew, someone involved with volleyball. Rachel stood up. She said no. Just no, over and over. Then she asked if it was Brenda. I nodded. Rachel walked out of the room. Harvey sat frozen. He asked if it was true. I said yes. He asked if I was sure. I said I was completely sure. He started crying. Dr. Morgan went after Rachel. I sat with Harvey. Dr. Morgan brought Rachel back 15 minutes later. Rachel wouldn't look at me. Her eyes were red. Dr. Morgan talked to them about what would happen next, about how their dad and I were going to separate but both still loved them. Rachel interrupted and said she didn't want to talk to Dad. Harvey said he didn't either. Dr. Morgan said those feelings were normal and valid. After the session, we went to Pam's house. I'd arranged for us to stay there temporarily. I'd packed bags that morning before telling the kids. Rachel went straight to the guest room Pam had set up for her and closed the door. Harvey sat at Pam's kitchen table and ate the cookies she'd made. Pam asked him about school, about his friends, about anything but the situation. He answered in short sentences. That evening Cedric called my phone 12 times. I didn't answer. He texted asking where his kids were. I texted back that they were safe and we needed space. He called again. I turned off my phone. Catherine filed divorce papers that Monday. Cedric was served at his workplace on Wednesday. He called from a number I didn't recognize. I answered thinking it might be one of the kids' schools. He was yelling. He said I had no right to take his kids away. He said I was turning them against him. He said I'd regret this. I hung up. 2 days later, Rachel quit the volleyball team. She sent an email to the club director explaining she was leaving effective immediately. The director called me asking what happened. I said it was a family situation and left it at that. The director pushed, saying Rachel was their top player and they had regionals coming up. I said Rachel's decision was final and hung up. Rachel cried for 3 days straight. She stayed in Pam's guest room and only came out to use the bathroom. Pam brought her food on a tray. I knocked on her door multiple times. She told me to go away. On the 4th day, she came downstairs and asked if she could transfer to a different school. She said she couldn't face anyone who knew about volleyball, about Brenda, about any of it. I called the district office and started looking into transfer options. Harvey asked fewer questions but I could see it eating at him. He got quieter. His grades started slipping. His teacher sent concerned emails. I met with his school counselor. The counselor recommended grief counseling. I made appointments. Cedric hired his own lawyer. Catherine received demands for joint custody, for me to return the money I'd transferred, for mediation. Catherine responded with our demands based on the evidence of adultery. Then Cedric's lawyer requested all my documentation. Catherine said this was normal and we'd provided what was legally required. Then something else came out. In gathering evidence, Catherine had requested Cedric's work records. His employer provided them as part of the legal discovery process. The records showed Cedric had been written up twice in the past year for inappropriate conduct with female employees. Once for unwanted comments, once for inappropriate touching. Both times HR had given him warnings and mandatory training. Catherine called me when she found this. She said it painted a pattern of behavior. She said it strengthened our case significantly. I felt sick reading the reports. I didn't know this person. The Cedric I'd married wouldn't have done these things. Or maybe he would have and I'd just never seen it. Maybe I'd been blind for 22 years. Catherine scheduled a deposition. Cedric had to answer questions under oath with lawyers present. The deposition lasted 7 hours. Catherine asked about the affair with Brenda. About the women at work. About his finances. About gifts he'd purchased. About specific dates and times. Cedric's lawyer objected constantly. But Cedric had to answer. The transcript was 200 pages long. Reading it felt like reading about a stranger. One part stood out. Catherine asked when the relationship with Brenda became physical. Cedric's lawyer objected but Cedric answered anyway. He said it started in June at a tournament in Nashville. He'd gone to watch Rachel compete. Brenda had been there coaching. They'd ended up at the hotel bar after the games. One thing led to another. I remembered that tournament. I hadn't gone because Harvey had a commitment that same weekend. Rachel had been so excited that her dad was there to watch her compete. Update 1. It's been over a month since I posted. I probably should have updated sooner but things have been moving fast and I've been trying to keep up. The divorce proceedings are ongoing. Cedric is fighting everything. He wants 50-50 custody despite the kids refusing to see him. His lawyer argued that I'm alienating them, that I've poisoned them against their father. Catherine shut that down with testimonies from Dr. Morgan and the kids' counselors, plus the evidence we'd already provided. The judge wasn't sympathetic to Cedric's claims. We're currently living with Pam still. I've been looking at apartments but nothing felt right. Rachel is doing virtual school for the rest of the year. She refused to go back to her old school. Harvey is still attending his middle school but I drive him there and back every day instead of having him take the bus. He says kids at school whisper about our family. I contacted the school administration about bullying but they said unless there were direct incidents they couldn't intervene. Rachel has been seeing a therapist twice a week. She doesn't talk much about the sessions but I've noticed small changes. She started eating more regularly. She goes for walks in the mornings. Last week she asked if she could join the community rec center to use their gym. I signed her up immediately. Harvey is struggling more than I expected. His counselor says he's internalizing everything. He won't talk about Cedric at all. When I bring it up, he changes the subject. His grades dropped from A's and B's to C's and D's. His teachers want to meet, but Harvey begged me not to make a big deal of it. I talked to his counselor about it. She said to give him time and space but stay available. Here's where things got complicated. 2 weeks ago, Pam came home from work looking upset. She sat me down and said she'd heard something. One of her coworkers has a daughter on Rachel's old volleyball team. The daughter told her mom that Brenda had quit coaching. Not just quit but left town entirely. According to the team gossip, Brenda's husband Gordon, 37M, found out about the affair. I didn't know Brenda was married. In all the time Rachel played volleyball, I'd never met Gordon. He apparently worked offshore, some kind of engineering job where he was gone for weeks at a time. That explained why he was never at games or team events. According to what Pam heard, Gordon came home early from a work rotation in late December. He confronted Brenda about unusual charges on their credit cards. She admitted everything. Gordon threw her out. She'd been staying with her sister in Kentucky. She'd resigned from the club by email, effective immediately, no explanation given. The club had to scramble to find a replacement coach mid-season. They brought in someone from a neighboring program. The team parents were furious. Multiple families threatened to pull their kids. The club director sent a lengthy email to all families about unforeseen circumstances and moving forward. When I told Rachel, she just nodded. She didn't seem surprised or upset, just blank. She said she'd already heard through old teammates who still texted her. She said she didn't care what happened to Brenda. But there's more. A week after that, I got a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. I answered and it was Gordon. He'd gotten my number from the volleyball club directory that was on Brenda's computer. He said he needed to talk to me. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop. Gordon looked exhausted. He'd lost weight. His hands shook when he held his coffee cup. He told me he'd found emails between Brenda and Cedric going back almost a year. He said the affair had been going on longer than I thought. He'd found hotel receipts from as far back as March of last year. He'd found text messages from even earlier than that. He showed me some of what he'd found on his phone. Messages from February discussing meeting up when Gordon was offshore. Messages from January where they were clearly already involved. Photos exchanged. Plans made. Gordon said Brenda had lied to him the same way Cedric lied to me. She'd claimed it started in June. But the evidence showed it had been going on for at least a year, possibly longer. He'd hired a forensic tech specialist to recover deleted messages from Brenda's old phone backups. The specialist found messages going back to November of the year before. That was before Rachel even made the premier team. Gordon broke down crying in the coffee shop. He said he'd trusted Brenda completely. He'd worked offshore to support her coaching career, to let her follow her passion. He'd been planning to propose that they start trying for kids this year. Instead his marriage was over and everyone in the volleyball community knew why. He asked me if Rachel had ever mentioned anything suspicious. I said no. He asked if I'd noticed anything unusual in how Brenda acted around Cedric. I thought back to all those times Brenda had come to our house, to tournaments, to team events. I tried to remember specific interactions. I couldn't recall anything concrete. They'd talked, sure, but never in a way that seemed inappropriate at the time. Gordon said he was divorcing Brenda too. He said his lawyer told him adultery cases were easier with evidence of patterns. He asked if he could have copies of what Catherine had gathered. I said I'd have to ask Catherine, but probably yes. He thanked me and left. I sat in that coffee shop for another hour. A year. Maybe more. All those tournaments Rachel played in. All those team parties and banquets. All those conversations in my driveway when Brenda dropped off paperwork. Cedric had been sleeping with her through all of it. I called Catherine and told her about Gordon. She said his information could be useful. She reached out to Gordon's lawyer and they coordinated. More evidence, more dates, more lies documented. Catherine said it made our case even stronger but also made Cedric look worse. Good, I said. Cedric found out about Gordon contacting me. He started sending me long text messages. He said I was humiliating him by talking to Gordon. He said it was bad enough I destroyed his relationship with his kids, but now I was spreading lies to anyone who would listen. He said Brenda had meant nothing, it was a mistake, he'd ended it weeks ago. Catherine told me not to respond. I blocked his number. Then Rachel's old teammates started messaging her. They'd found out through the parent network what had actually happened with Brenda quitting. Rachel's phone was blowing up with messages. Some were supportive. Some were questions. A few were nasty, saying Rachel's family had destroyed the team's season, that Rachel was selfish for quitting right before regionals. Rachel came to me with tears streaming down her face showing me the messages. I called the club director. I asked if she could send out a message to families requesting they respect our privacy and stop contacting Rachel. The director said she'd already sent multiple communications about appropriate boundaries. She said she couldn't control what parents did outside of club activities. I asked if she could at least remove Rachel's contact information from any team directories. She said she'd look into it. Harvey's school called. He'd gotten into a fight. Another boy had said something about our dad leaving our mom for a younger woman. Harvey had punched him. Both boys were suspended for 3 days. I picked Harvey up from the principal's office. He wouldn't talk on the drive home. When we got to Pam's house, he went straight to his room and slammed the door. Later that night I knocked on Harvey's door. He didn't answer. I opened it anyway. He was lying on his bed staring at the ceiling. I sat on the edge of the bed. I asked what the other boy had said. Harvey wouldn't repeat it. I said he couldn't punch people even when they said terrible things. He said he knew but he couldn't help it. I asked if he wanted to talk about his dad. He said no. I stayed sitting there for a few minutes then left. The next day was a scheduled custody hearing. Cedric showed up with his lawyer demanding he be allowed supervised visits with the kids. Catherine argued that neither child wanted contact and forcing it would be traumatic. The judge asked if the kids could be present to speak. Catherine had anticipated this and Dr. Morgan was there to facilitate. Rachel and Harvey were brought into the judge's chambers separately. I wasn't allowed in either conversation. When Rachel came out, her eyes were red but she looked relieved. When Harvey came out, he looked angry. The judge ruled that visits would be postponed until both kids expressed willingness to participate. Cedric's lawyer objected. The judge said her priority was the children's well-being. Cedric tried to approach Rachel and Harvey in the courthouse hallway after the hearing. Catherine stepped between them. Cedric's lawyer pulled him back. Cedric shouted that we were all going to regret keeping him from his kids. Security was called. We were escorted out a side door. On the drive back to Pam's house, Rachel said the judge had asked her directly if she wanted to see her dad. She'd said no. The judge asked if she thought that might change with time. Rachel had said she didn't think so. Harvey said the judge had asked him the same things. He'd said he didn't know. That night Pam made a big dinner. She'd invited her husband Mike, 51M, to join us. Mike is quiet but kind. He works in construction. He told Harvey about a project he was working on, showed him pictures on his phone. Harvey actually engaged, asked questions, seemed interested. Rachel helped Pam with dessert. For 2 hours we almost felt like a normal family. But then my phone rang. Unknown number again. I stepped outside to answer. It was Brenda's sister. She said Brenda wanted to talk to me. I said no. The sister said Brenda was a mess, that she needed closure. I said that wasn't my problem. The sister said I didn't understand, that Brenda had made mistakes but she was still a person. I hung up. Catherine called later that evening. She said Cedric's employer had terminated him. The HR complaints, combined with the ongoing legal issues and his outburst at the courthouse, had made him a liability. They'd given him a severance package and ended his employment effective immediately. Catherine said this would impact child support calculations but not in Cedric's favor since unemployment was his own doing. I tried to feel something about Cedric losing his job. Sympathy, vindication, anything. I felt nothing. Update 2: We moved into our own place last month. It's a small 3-bedroom rental about 20 minutes from Pam's house. It's not much, older building, small rooms, but it's ours. Rachel picked out paint for her room. Harvey helped me assemble furniture. We're slowly making it feel like home. The divorce is nearly final. We're in the last stages of paperwork. Cedric agreed to most terms after his lawyer explained that fighting further would only cost him more money he doesn't have. Catherine negotiated a settlement that includes the house being sold with proceeds split 60-40 in my favor due to his adultery. Cedric gets standard visitation rights but they can't be enforced unless the kids agree. He has to pay child support based on his previous income until he finds new employment, then it'll be recalculated. Cedric found a new job 3 weeks ago. It's a lower position than what he had, less pay, but it's something. He's living in a 1-bedroom apartment near his work. He sent the kids letters. They arrived last week. Rachel threw hers away without opening it. Harvey opened his, read it, then put it in a drawer. I asked if he wanted to talk about it. He said no. Something happened last week that I need to write about. I was at the grocery store near our new place. I turned down the cereal aisle and there was Brenda. She was alone, looked like she'd been crying. Her hair was shorter. She'd lost weight. She saw me at the same time I saw her. We both froze. She approached me. I wanted to walk away but my feet wouldn't move. She said she was sorry. She said she knew that didn't mean anything but she needed to say it. She said she'd made terrible choices and destroyed lives including her own. She said she thought about Rachel constantly, about how she'd betrayed someone who trusted her. I asked if she really thought an apology in a grocery store made any difference. She said no. She said she was in therapy, trying to understand why she'd done what she did. She said her therapist said she had attachment issues stemming from childhood abandonment. I said that wasn't an excuse. She said she knew. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. She said Cedric had contacted her 2 months ago. He'd found her in Kentucky somehow. He'd driven there and showed up at her sister's house. He'd wanted to see her, said they needed to talk about everything. She'd refused to see him. He'd left letters. She'd thrown them away without reading them. She'd blocked his number. But he kept trying to reach her through different numbers, different email addresses. She said she was scared of him. She said during the affair he'd become possessive, jealous if she talked to other men at tournaments. He'd once gone through her phone while she was showering. She said toward the end, before everything came out, he'd started talking about them running away together, starting over somewhere new. She'd realized he was serious, and that's when she'd tried to end things. That's when everything exploded. I asked why she was telling me this. She said because she thought I should know what kind of person Cedric really was. She said she'd convinced herself it was love, that they had something special, but looking back she could see he'd been manipulative. She said he'd love-bombed her, made her feel special, isolated her from her husband, then turned controlling. I told her I didn't care about her analysis of Cedric's behavior. I told her she'd known he was married with children and she'd done it anyway. I told her she'd coached my daughter while sleeping with my husband, and that was something I'd never forgive. She started crying again and said she knew. I walked away. When I got home I called Catherine and told her what Brenda had said about Cedric contacting her. Catherine said she'd look into whether that violated any terms of our separation agreement. She called back an hour later and said technically no, since the agreement didn't prohibit him from contacting third parties, but it showed a pattern of obsessive behavior that could be relevant if Cedric tried to modify custody terms. That night I told Rachel what happened at the grocery store. She asked what Brenda looked like. I described her. Rachel said good, she hoped Brenda was miserable. Then Rachel asked if I thought Dad was dangerous. I asked what made her think that. She said just things she'd been remembering, ways he'd acted when she was younger that seemed normal then but seemed different now. Rachel said when she was in middle school, Dad used to comment on what she wore. If she wore something he thought was too revealing, he'd make her change. At the time she thought he was just being a protective father. Now she wondered if it was something else. She said he used to make comments about her friends too, about which ones were prettier or dressed better. She'd always felt uncomfortable but hadn't understood why. Harvey was listening from the hallway. He came in and said Dad used to do weird things with him too. He said Dad would get really intense about Harvey's sports performance, to the point where Harvey stopped enjoying activities. He said Dad once screamed at him for striking out in baseball, in front of the whole team. The coach had to intervene. Harvey had quit baseball after that season. We sat there together, the three of us, sharing memories that painted a picture of someone I'd been married to for over 2 decades but never really knew. Or maybe I'd known and chosen not to see it. A few days after that, Gordon contacted me again. He said Brenda's divorce was finalized. He said she'd left Kentucky and moved to North Carolina where she had other family. He said he'd heard through mutual friends that Cedric had been showing up at places Brenda used to frequent, asking about her. Gordon said his lawyer had advised Brenda to file a police report. I don't know if she did. Meanwhile, Rachel has been doing better overall. She joined a rec league for volleyball at a facility 2 towns over where nobody knows our story. She came home after her first practice smiling for the first time in months. She said the coach was nice, the girls were friendly, it felt good to play again. I almost cried seeing her happy. Harvey is still struggling academically, but his counselor says he's making progress emotionally. He's started talking more in his sessions. He told me last week that he's been writing things down, thoughts and feelings, because talking about them out loud is too hard. His counselor said that was a healthy coping mechanism. Cedric sent me an email 3 weeks ago. He said he'd been doing a lot of thinking. He said he realized he'd made mistakes and wanted to make amends. He said he wanted to rebuild relationships with Rachel and Harvey. He asked if we could meet to discuss how to move forward. Catherine advised against meeting him one-on-one. She suggested any communication go through lawyers. I forwarded the email to Catherine and didn't respond. Cedric sent another email a week later. This one was longer, angrier. He said I was being unreasonable. He said I was keeping his children from him out of spite. He said the courts had given him rights and I was violating them. He said if I didn't facilitate contact he'd take me back to court. Catherine responded on my behalf with a reminder that the custody agreement requires the children's willingness to participate in visits and neither child has expressed willingness. She said if he felt his rights were being violated he was welcome to file a motion. He hasn't yet. Yesterday was Rachel's 18th birthday. We had a small party at our place. Pam and Mike came. A few of Rachel's new friends from the rec league came. We had cake and watched movies and played games. It was simple and nice. Rachel seemed genuinely happy. Cedric sent Rachel a birthday text. She showed it to me. It was a long message about how proud he was of her, how much he loved her, how he hoped they could reconnect soon. Rachel didn't respond. She blocked his number and went back to eating cake. I've been thinking about what comes after the divorce is final. Catherine says once everything is signed it'll be over legally, but I know it's not really over. Cedric is still out there. He's still their father. He's still someone we'll have to navigate around for years to come. College graduation, weddings, grandchildren someday. He'll be a shadow over all of it. But we're managing. Rachel is playing volleyball again. Harvey is writing his feelings down. I'm working part-time now at a dental office, getting back into my career. We have our own place. We have each other. That's something. Final update: I wasn't going to write another update, but something happened and I think people should know how this turned out. 6 weeks ago, I got a call from a detective with our county sheriff's office. He said they'd received a report about Cedric and needed to ask me some questions. My hands started shaking before he even explained why. The detective said they'd received a complaint from a mother whose daughter attended Harvey's middle school. Apparently, Cedric had been showing up at the school. He'd been standing outside during dismissal times watching the students leave. Multiple parents had noticed him over several days. One parent thought he looked suspicious and approached him. Cedric said he was waiting for his son. The parent asked which son. Cedric pointed toward a group of kids, but none of them were Harvey. The parent reported it to the school office. The school pulled security footage. Cedric had been there 5 different times over 3 weeks. He'd never approached Harvey or tried to enter the building. But he'd been there, watching. The school contacted me as Harvey's primary guardian. I confirmed Cedric was not authorized to be on campus. The school filed a trespass warning. When Cedric showed up again after that, they called police. The detective said when officers approached Cedric, he became agitated. He claimed he had every right to see his son. Officers explained the trespass warning. Cedric argued. They asked him to leave. He refused. They arrested him for trespass and resisting. Cedric spent 1 night in jail. He was released on bond. Part of his bond conditions included staying away from the school. The detective said they wanted to know if there was a history of stalking behavior. I told him everything. The attempts to contact Brenda. The emails to me. The courthouse outburst. He took notes. The detective asked if I wanted to pursue a protective order. I said yes. He connected me with a victim advocate who helped me file the paperwork. A hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. I had to tell the kids. Harvey was terrified. He said he'd known someone was watching him at school but hadn't wanted to say anything. He'd seen Cedric's truck parked down the street. He'd told himself he was imagining things. Rachel was furious. She said she'd known Dad wasn't right in the head. At the hearing, the judge reviewed everything. The arrest report, the school security footage, my testimony about Cedric's escalating behavior, Catherine's documentation from the divorce proceedings. Cedric's lawyer argued it was a misunderstanding, that Cedric was just trying to see his son from a distance because I'd alienated the children. The judge didn't buy it. The judge granted a 2-year protective order. Cedric has to stay 500 feet away from me, the kids, our home, and their schools. He can't contact us directly or through third parties. Violation means immediate arrest. Cedric's lawyer said they'd appeal. As far as I know, they haven't yet. The divorce was finalized 1 week after the protective order was granted. 22 years of marriage over. I got the notification from Catherine by email. She said the final papers would arrive by mail. I sat at our kitchen table reading the email over and over. Rachel hugged me. Harvey said it was about time. 2 weeks ago, I got a strange letter in the mail. It was from a woman named Beth, 29F. She said she'd been dating Cedric for the past month. She'd found my address through public divorce records because she wanted to warn me about something. She said Cedric had been acting erratic. He'd told her about his ex-wife who'd turned his kids against him. He'd driven her past our rental house twice, pointing it out. She'd thought it was weird but let it go. Then Cedric had started asking her questions about where she worked, what her schedule was, whether she had social media accounts. He'd wanted access to her phone. When she'd refused, he'd gotten angry. He'd accused her of hiding something. She'd broken up with him. He'd shown up at her apartment multiple times after. She'd had to call police once. She'd gotten her own protective order. She'd looked into his background afterward and found the arrest, the school incident, our divorce. She wanted me to know he was getting worse. I called the detective and forwarded Beth's letter. He said he'd follow up. He called back 2 days later and said Beth's report corroborated a pattern. He said they were keeping Cedric on their radar. If he violated the protective order or did anything else concerning, they'd have enough for more serious charges. Last week Rachel got a notification on her social media. Cedric had tried to create a fake account to follow her. She recognized his writing style in the bio. She blocked the account and reported it to the platform. She showed me. The account had been created the day after the protective order was granted. Harvey had a nightmare 3 nights ago. He dreamed Dad showed up at our house. He woke up crying. I sat with him until he fell back asleep. In the morning he asked if Dad could actually find us. I said no, and even if he did, he'd be arrested immediately. Harvey said he still felt scared. I said I understood and that was okay. We're taking extra precautions now. I vary my route to work and the kids' schools. I check behind me when I'm driving. Our rental has a security camera now that points at the driveway. Pam and Mike have a copy of the protective order. The kids' schools have Cedric's photo and instructions to call police if he's spotted. It's exhausting living like this. Every car that drives by slowly makes my heart race. Every unknown number that calls makes me anxious. But we're doing it. We're surviving. Rachel got accepted to 3 universities. She's deciding between them now. She wants to major in psychology. She says she wants to understand people, why they do what they do. Part of me wonders if she means she wants to understand what happened with Cedric. But she seems genuinely excited about the future. Harvey brought home a B on his English paper last week. His teacher wrote a note saying his writing has matured significantly. He's been reading more. He told me yesterday he might want to be a writer someday. I told him he'd be good at it. I'm working full-time now. The dental office hired me permanently. It feels good to have my own income, my own identity beyond being someone's wife. I'm not the same person I was a year ago. That person was afraid to check credit card statements. That person made excuses for red flags. That person stayed quiet to keep the peace. I'm not her anymore. Sometimes I wonder where Cedric is, what he's doing. If he's gotten help. If he's still obsessing over all of us. If he's moved on to someone new. Then I realize it doesn't matter. He's not my problem anymore. My problem is making sure the kids are okay. My problem is healing. My problem is building a life that doesn't include him. The lease on our rental is up in 4 months. We're talking about buying a house. Something small, something ours. Rachel will be at college but she'll come home for breaks. Harvey needs stability. I need a place that Cedric has never been, that has no memories attached to it. Last night we ordered pizza and watched a movie. Just the 3 of us on our couch in our living room. Rachel put her feet on the coffee table. Harvey threw popcorn at her. We laughed. It was normal. It was good. This morning I woke up and realized I hadn't thought about Cedric for a whole day. That's progress. Maybe in another month it'll be 2 days. Maybe eventually it'll be weeks. Maybe someday we'll go whole months without thinking about what he did, what we lost, how he changed everything. But for now, we're here. We're safe. We're together. And that has to be enough. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2. My wife was having an affair with our neighbor who owned the gym and they would hook up in his office during my workout sessions. Her real estate career is now ruined. I never thought I would be writing this post, but life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. Yesterday, my entire world came crashing down when I discovered my wife's affair in the most unexpected way. I've been married to Claudia, 30F, for 5 years, and we dated for 3 years before that. We met at a mutual friend's wedding where she was a bridesmaid and I was a groomsman. It was one of those perfect meet cutes where we just clicked instantly. We have no kids, thankfully, because what I discovered would have made everything much more complicated. I work as a software developer for a tech company that went remote after COVID. Claudia works as a real estate agent for one of the top firms in our city. She's always been ambitious and driven, which is one of the things that attracted me to her. We bought our house 2 years ago. It was actually one she showed to other clients, but they passed on it. She convinced me it would be perfect for us, and we managed to get it at a good price. Our neighbor Tom, 35M, moved in 6 months after we did. He's this super fit personal trainer who runs his own gym. When we first met him, he seemed like a great guy. He brought us a bottle of wine as a welcome gift, even though we were there first, and invited us to check out his gym. Claudia and I both signed up for membership since it was just a 3-minute walk from our house. We even started doing couples training sessions with him twice a week. Yesterday changed everything. I was cleaning our basement storage room because we're planning to convert it into a home office. I've been working from the dining table since going remote, and Claudia kept insisting I needed a proper workspace. While moving some boxes of her old college stuff, I found a phone I had never seen before, hidden behind some old books. It was one of those basic smartphones, not her usual iPhone. The strange thing was, it wasn't password protected, probably because she thought no one would find it. The most recent messages were with Tom, and they went back months. I felt physically sick reading through them. They had been meeting at his house when I was busy with work calls. There were intimate photos, detailed plans for their meetups, and messages about how they needed to be careful because I was too trusting. They even had cute nicknames for each other and inside jokes about me. The worst part wasn't even the evidence of their physical affair, it was how they mocked me in their messages. They laughed about how I never suspected anything when we were all working out together at his gym. They made plans right in front of me during our training sessions, using code words and signals I never picked up on. There were messages from just 2 days ago about how they had a quickie in his office while I was doing my cardio routine upstairs. I remembered that day clearly. Claudia said she needed to discuss her membership plan with Tom, and I thought nothing of it. Reading through their messages, I discovered this had been going on for at least 4 months. They first hooked up after a private training session when I was away at a conference. Claudia had told me she wanted extra sessions to tone up for summer. Now I know what kind of workouts she was really doing. I didn't confront her immediately. My hands were shaking, but I managed to take photos of the most damning messages for evidence. I put the phone back exactly where I found it and called my lawyer, Mike. He's been my friend since college and helped us with buying the house. He understood the urgency of the situation and had the divorce papers ready by evening. I also called my boss and took 2 weeks off, citing a family emergency. While Claudia was showing houses to clients, I packed all my important documents, some clothes, and my laptop. I withdrew half of our joint savings, around $40,000, and transferred it to my personal account that she doesn't know about. Then I left the divorce papers on our kitchen table with a printed screenshot of one of their intimate conversations attached to it. I also left my house key and wedding ring. I drove 6 hours to a different city where my cousin Ryan lives. We've always been close, and I knew he would keep my secret. I didn't tell anyone else where I was going, not even my parents. I just sent them a message saying I needed some time alone and would explain everything later. Then I switched off my phone. This morning, I switched it on briefly and was overwhelmed by notifications. 47 missed calls from Claudia, 23 from Tom, and countless messages. Claudia's messages were a roller coaster, first confused about the divorce papers, then panicked when she couldn't find me, then angry that I wasn't answering her calls. She wrote that I was being immature by not talking to her face to face and that I was overreacting. Tom's messages were all about how it wasn't what it looked like and how we needed to talk like adults. The audacity of these two really got to me. The thing that hurts the most is that Claudia and I had plans. We were thinking about starting a family next year. We had even started looking at bigger houses in better school districts. She had been showing me properties for the past few weeks, saying we needed to plan ahead. All those late nights she spent house hunting, now I know she was hunting something else entirely. I'm writing this from my cousin's guest room, still trying to process everything. Ryan is the only one who knows where I am, and he's promised to keep it that way. He suggested I confront Claudia, but I couldn't bear to look at her face knowing what she had done. 8 years of relationship, 5 years of marriage, all gone because she couldn't keep her hands off our neighbor. Every memory of our time together is now tainted, our workouts at the gym, our neighborhood barbecues, even our recent house hunting trips. My lawyer will handle everything from here. I don't want to see her or talk to her. I just want this chapter of my life to end as quickly as possible. Update 1. First, I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. Your support helped me stay strong during the worst 2 weeks of my life. A lot has happened since then, and things got even messier than I expected. I'm still at my cousin Ryan's place. He's been great through all of this, letting me work remotely from his house and making sure I eat properly. I was barely eating the first few days, but he kept ordering my favorite foods and practically forced me to maintain some kind of routine. Claudia went into full panic mode when she couldn't find me. She first tried calling all our friends and family. When that didn't work, she hired a private investigator to track me down. This pie has been relentless. He contacted my parents multiple times, showed up at my friends' houses, and even tracked down my workplace. The pie tried to convince everyone that Claudia was worried about my mental health and just wanted to make sure I was safe. My boss Mark deserves a medal for how he handled the situation. When the pie showed up at the office, Mark not only refused to give any information but also called me to warn me. He told them I was on indefinite leave and the company had no information about my whereabouts. Mark even helped set up my remote work arrangement so I could stay away longer if needed. Yesterday, my lawyer Mike served Claudia with additional divorce papers, including all the evidence of her affair. We're talking hundreds of screenshots from that hidden phone, not just the text messages, but also their email exchanges and even bank statements showing suspicious purchases. Mike told me Claudia finally stopped trying to find me and hired her own lawyer when she realized how much evidence we had. But here's where the story takes an interesting turn. Tom's wife Laura, 33F, found out about everything. Apparently, Claudia had some kind of breakdown at the gym when she received the divorce papers with the evidence. She started crying in front of everyone and ended up confessing everything to Laura, who was there for her morning workout. Instead of the drama Claudia probably expected, Laura calmly gathered her things and left. 2 days later, Laura reached out to my lawyer, asking if I would be willing to talk to her. She said she had discovered evidence of other affairs Tom had been having, and not just with Claudia. I was hesitant at first, but Mike suggested meeting at his office where we could talk safely. The meeting with Laura opened up a whole new can of worms. She's a software engineer who works from home, which gave her plenty of time to dig through Tom's devices once she got suspicious. She showed me text messages from Tom's phone that she had secretly backed up. Claudia wasn't even close to being his first affair partner from the gym. He had been sleeping with at least 3 other married clients, possibly more. Laura and I spent almost 4 hours talking, sharing our stories, and trying to make sense of how we both missed the signs for so long. Meanwhile, Claudia has been busy trying to control the narrative. She told our friends that I was being cruel and immature by disappearing without giving her a chance to explain. She claimed it was just one mistake and that I was overreacting by immediately filing for divorce. Some friends actually believed her at first, until Laura came forward with her evidence. The screenshots she shared in our friends group chat showed this was far from a one-time mistake. Now most of our friend group has cut ties with both Claudia and Tom. The fallout has been massive. Tom's gym is losing clients faster than a sinking ship. Word spread among the gym members about his affairs with married clients, and people are canceling their memberships left and right. He sent me a threatening message about how I ruined his business and his marriage, but Mike shut that down quickly with a cease and desist letter. Last I heard, Tom had to lay off most of his staff. My parents finally know everything. Mom was furious, not just at Claudia, but at Tom too. She wanted to drive over to our old house and confront Claudia, but I convinced her to let the lawyers handle everything. Dad took it more quietly, but he's been incredibly supportive. He used his business connections to help me find a job in this new city. It's actually a better position than my old one, with a significant pay raise. I start next month. Laura and I have been texting occasionally, mostly to update each other on legal proceedings. She's filing for divorce too, and with all the evidence she has, Tom isn't contesting anything. It's strange how betrayal can bring people together, not romantically, but as friends who understand each other's pain. Update 2, the divorce proceedings are moving forward, but there's been another twist in this whole mess that I wasn't expecting. Remember that hidden phone I found? Well, my lawyer had a tech expert analyze it thoroughly, and there were more secrets in it than I initially discovered. Claudia and Tom had been planning a future together. They weren't just having an affair, they had been actively looking at houses together behind my back. All those properties Claudia was showing me? They were just a cover. She was actually house hunting with Tom on the side, using her access as a real estate agent to view properties without raising suspicion. The tech expert found deleted messages showing that Claudia was planning to ask for a divorce after selling our house. She had convinced me we needed to upgrade to a bigger place, and I had agreed to list our house next month. Her plan was to get the commission from our house sale and use that money as a down payment on a new place with Tom. They even had a joint savings account that I knew nothing about, where they'd been stashing money for months. Through her lawyer, Claudia finally came clean about the timeline of the affair. It had been going on for nearly a year, not just 4 months like I originally thought from the recent messages. It started with innocent flirting at the gym during our couples training sessions. Then she started booking private sessions with Tom when I was busy with work. These private sessions turned into coffee meetups, which eventually led to them sleeping together. Claudia's lawyer tried to spin a story about how she felt lonely because I worked too much, even though I worked from home most days. They claimed I was emotionally unavailable and focused too much on my career. It's funny how cheaters always try to blame their partner. I showed my lawyer evidence of all our date nights, weekend trips, and the countless times I rearranged my work schedule to spend time with her. That shut down their narrative pretty quickly. Tom's divorce is proceeding even faster than mine. Laura got almost everything in their settlement because of all the evidence she had. Not just the affairs with gym clients, but also proof that he had been hiding income from the gym. The fitness center that was once the pride of our neighborhood is now up for sale. Most of his clients left after the scandal broke, and he can't afford to keep it running with a reduced income. The whole situation has affected Claudia's work too. Several of her real estate clients dropped her after finding out she had an affair with a client's husband. Her boss had to reassign all her listings to other agents. She tried to spin it as taking a break to focus on her mental health, but everyone in our social circle knows the truth. Claudia hasn't given up trying to reach me though. Last week, she tried to go through my cousin Ryan. She showed up at his house unannounced, crying and begging him to help her talk to me. Ryan, being the solid guy he is, didn't let her in. He recorded the whole interaction on his phone in case we needed it for legal purposes. She stood outside his house for almost an hour, alternating between crying and getting angry. My lawyer sent her a formal warning about harassment after that incident, and she finally stopped trying to contact me or my family. Laura and I still keep in touch. She's been a surprising source of support through all this. We meet for coffee occasionally to update each other on the divorce proceedings. She told me that Tom tried to reconcile with her, claiming Claudia had seduced him and he had made a mistake. Laura showed him the evidence she had of his other affairs, and he hasn't bothered her since. The most surreal part of all this is how normal Claudia and Tom tried to act around me before I found out. Just 3 weeks before I discovered the phone, we all had dinner together at a neighborhood barbecue. They were laughing, joking, and playing the perfect neighbors while carrying on their affair right under my nose. Looking back, there were probably signs I missed, but I never thought Claudia would be capable of such calculated deception. Update 3, the divorce is finally done. After all the revelations about her secret plans with Tom came out, Claudia didn't contest anything in the settlement. She gave up her claim to our house, probably because she knew how bad it would look in court if she tried to fight it. I sold the house last week, got a good price for it too, since the market is hot right now. The irony isn't lost on me that Claudia would have made a nice commission on the sale if she hadn't ruined everything. I used part of the house money to buy a small but modern apartment in my new city. It's closer to my new office and in a vibrant neighborhood with lots of restaurants and parks. My new place has nothing to remind me of Claudia, which is exactly what I needed. I've been slowly furnishing it and making it feel like home. Tom's gym was sold to LA Fitness. They're completely renovating the place and replacing all the staff. He tried to negotiate keeping some kind of management role, but they weren't interested once they learned about the scandal. Last I heard from Laura, Tom moved to Arizona to work at his brother's gym. Apparently, he left town right after his divorce was finalized, probably because his reputation here was completely destroyed. Claudia's professional life took a major hit. Her real estate firm asked her to resign after they lost several big listings because of her scandal. She tried to join another agency, but in our city's close-knit real estate community, word gets around. She's now working as a virtual assistant for some online company. She still lives in our old city, renting a small apartment near her parents. Her mother reached out to my mom last week, saying Claudia was in therapy and really regretted her choices. Mom told her it was too late for regrets. Laura and I still talk every couple of weeks. She's doing really well, got a promotion at her tech company and bought herself a condo downtown. We both agreed that we're not ready to date anyone new yet. The trust issues from being betrayed like this run deep, and we both need time to heal. After the divorce was finalized, Claudia sent me a long email. She wrote about how sorry she was and how she had ruined the best thing in her life. She said the excitement of the affair with Tom had blinded her to what really mattered. She even admitted that their plans to build a life together fell apart as soon as everything came out in the open. Tom apparently showed his true colors when their reputations were at stake, blaming her for everything. I didn't respond to her email. Some things can't be fixed with an apology, and I've said everything I needed to say through my lawyer. The last tie between us was cut when I changed my phone number last week. The only people who have my new number are family and close friends. My new job has been a blessing in disguise. I'm leading a bigger team now, and the projects are more challenging and interesting. I've made some good friends at work, and we often grab drinks after work or go hiking on weekends. My cousin Ryan convinced me to join his soccer league, so that keeps me active and social. The past few months have been the hardest of my life, but I'm finally starting to feel like myself again. Sometimes I catch myself thinking about the good times with Claudia, but then I remember how easily she threw it all away. The pain isn't as sharp anymore, but the lessons I learned will stay with me forever.